A young boy drifts on the knife edge between life and death, suspended in the open sea. Moments earlier, he found himself caught in the jaws of a relentless shark. Above him, in a small wooden boat, his companions strain against fear, desperately reaching to pull him to safety. This is Watson and the shark, the harrowing struggle of 10 men against a single, deadly predator. Painted in 1778 by John Singleton Copley, and perhaps most astonishing of all, every moment of this scene is drawn from a true story. But how did this terrifying moment become one of the most haunting paintings in history? In 1749, while the royal consort lay at anchor in Havana Harbor, 14-year-old Brook Watson removed his woolen sailor's garments and waded into the warm waters, unaware of the lurking danger beneath the surface. In an instant, his life hung by a slender thread. A massive shark struck. In April 1778, when Copley's painting was exhibited at the Royal Academy, Watson recounted the ordeal himself. The shark struck 3 times. In the first attack, all the flesh was stripped from my calf down to the bone. In the second, my foot was severed at the ankle. He further stated, "At the very instant I was about to be seized a 3rd time, the shark was struck with the boat hook and driven from its prey." It is this precise moment, just before the shark's final blow, that John Copley immortalised in Watson and the Shark, a moment suspended between death and survival, trembling with fear and awe, a heartbeat frozen in time. John Singleton Copley, renowned in Boston for his portraits of prominent merchants, politicians and officers, moved to London in 1774. Yet London demanded more than mere likenesses. It demanded grandeur, history and moral narrative. Portraiture could bring quick income, but it was large-scale historical painting that defined an artist's legacy. After the American painter arrived in London, Copley and Brook Watson became friends. Watson, born in Plymouth in 1735 and orphaned early in life, had been raised by his aunt. Having endured the harsh life of the Caribbean seas, he had now become a successful merchant. 25 years after his ordeal, he commissioned Copley to depict his miraculous survival. In doing so, he entrusted the artist not merely with a portrait, but with a story of courage, danger and triumph. Watson and the Shark was the first in a series of large-scale historical paintings that Copley would focus on after settling in London. Exhibited at the Royal Academy in 1778, it cemented Copley's reputation in the city. The painting is truly saturated with drama and action. The composition includes 10 figures and a shark, a predatory fish so massive that its body seems to extend beyond the frame of the canvas. Undoubtedly, the central figure of the composition is Watson. He floats helplessly, his young, pale body partially submerged. His legs have already been severed below the ankle by the shark, seemingly disappearing into the depths. The bloody details of his wounds are hidden beneath the waves, though traces of blood are visible in the water, a detail rendered more explicitly in a smaller version of the painting, completed in 1782. Notice how Watson's posture subtly guides us. His left arm rests along his body, while his right stretches toward the men in the boat, leading our eyes through the unfolding drama. Watson's figure subtly demonstrates how Copley incorporated references to earlier art in his work. Were he to stand, his overall posture would mirror the famous Borghese gladiator, a classical reference Copley studied at the Louvre. This stance also recalls a figure in Raphael's Transfiguration, a painting Copley saw in the Vatican and described to his wife as the greatest painting in the world. Furthermore, Watson's head, painted in profile, is nearly an exact copy of one of the sons from the famous Laocoon sculpture, a work he admired so much that he owned a small cast of it. Turn to the men in the boat. Each is depicted differently. Some are young, others older. Some wear simple sailor attire, while the man wielding the boat hook is more adorned, with leather shoes and buckles, silk stockings, and a freshly tailored naval coat. Notice their facial expressions. To heighten the emotional weight of the scene, Copley referenced a famous treatise on human expression, Conférence de M. Lebrun sur l'expression générale et particulière, published in 1698, which analysed how emotions manifest on the human face. The man at the bow displays the expression Lebrun called attention. Another, with furrowed brows and a downward-turned mouth, reflects Lebrun's archetype of fear. And the black sailor standing in the boat conveys compassion, again in line with Lebrun's prescriptions. But look closely, this black figure is far more than a background character. At first glance, he might seem like just another man in the boat, yet Copley's early sketches reveal a surprising detail. He was originally drawn as a white man with long hair. This change was no accident. It was a deliberate choice that quietly transforms how we read the entire scene. Which leads us to a crucial question. Why did Copley, alone in his studio, surrounded by sketches, reference materials, and studies of ancient statues and Renaissance heroes, make the bold, decisive choice to change this figure from white to black? And what is the deeper meaning behind this face? In 1778, this decision was astonishingly bold. London in the 1770s was the centre of the early abolitionist movement, yet slavery was still legal, and Britain was a major player in the transatlantic slave trade. Black figures in European art were typically servants, background characters, or exotic embellishments. Here, Copley gives this figure a unique and essential role in the composition. He is the only one holding the rope that literally keeps Watson alive. Even Watson's outstretched gaze doesn't reach the hands of the two men leaning toward him. It leads us straight to the black sailor's hands. This man is no longer a servant or a background figure. He is a hero, a central presence in the drama. A black man saves the life of a young white British boy. This overturns the racial logic of the 18th century. The painting carries a subtle, early anti-slavery message, not through loud political statements, but through deliberate visual storytelling. Copley didn't have to depict him as black. Watson himself never mentions the black sailor. It was a deliberate and conscious choice, and it tells us something timeless. Courage knows no colour, humanity belongs to all. In 1778, this was revolutionary. Copley's fascination with this model didn't end there. He painted him twice more, in works later known as Head of a Favourite Negro. Yet beyond the 10 men, the shark itself is highly symbolic and exaggerated. Notice its lips, almost feline, its eyes strikingly like a tiger's, and the gaping mouth bristling with teeth. The shark lunges diagonally into the scene, forcing our gaze to the critical moment of attack. The shark is more than a predator. It embodies fate, chance, and the inherent dangers of seafaring life. The rescuers act as moral agents, intermediaries between disaster and survival. Watson, suspended in the water, represents both vulnerability and latent potential, a young life poised on the boundary between death and destiny. Copley amplifies this allegory with subtle references to classical and religious art. The two men in the boat, reaching down to save Watson, echo Raphael's miraculous draft of fishes. Even the standing man, ready to strike the shark with the hook, recalls various depictions of St. George slaying the dragon by Raphael, or St. Michael expelling Satan by Guido Reni, while the overall drama evokes Benjamin West's Death of General Wolfe. It is no surprise that most references are drawn from religious painting, since one of Watson's life themes is the possibility of salvation emerging from tragedy. Yet despite these artistic references, Copley faced a practical challenge. He had never been to Havana, nor likely seen a real shark, let alone one attacking a human. He had to construct the Havana Harbor from engraved prints, the details visible both in the foreground and the distant background. The real Fortress Morro Castle and Havana Harbor itself. And this is why every painting tells a story. Watson and the Shark continues to shock its viewers, just as nearly 2 centuries later, Spielberg's Shark would shock audiences in 1975. On the big screen, Spielberg's Shark did exactly what Copley's Shark had done at the Royal Academy in 1778. It dominated the scene, commanding attention and stirring fear, fascination and awe. Two works separated by time, united by a single spirit, each capable of seizing the viewer's imagination, even as they merge into a single body.